Well, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar on Church360 Ledger, which is entitled Preparing for Your Year-End Financial Reports with Church360 Ledger. My name is Stephen Jenkins. Here is my picture and contact information here. Feel free if you have any questions or would like to purchase the software to reach out to me via email. That's my email address. Now, this afternoon, I am very blessed and excited to be joined by Ken Olemeyer. This is his picture and contact information here. Ken has been a senior manager here in the marketing department of Concordia Publishing House, and this is his contact information. He's actually going to lead us through the software today. I'm just hosting and introducing and jumping in where I can, but Ken is going to actually drive this train here, all right? So very happy to help you out and speak with you this afternoon. Now, in preparation for this webinar, we're doing a little bit of housekeeping before we actually jump in and show you this exciting software. So we will take about 50 minutes to present and show the software to you, and we'll leave the last 10 minutes for questions. Now, don't wait until the end to send any questions. We have a little chat box that you can use, and we urge you to type questions as they appear or come into your mind throughout the presentation. So do not wait until the end. Go ahead and type those anytime you have a question and we'll address them. Now, we understand you're busy, so we will record this live training webinar and we're going to share it with everyone that has registered to join us today. So no worries if you have to step away, please do so. You'll get a link to the recording video of this webinar. Now, bit about Concordia Technology Solutions. We are the church administration division of Concordia Publishing House. We're all in the same building here in St. Louis, Missouri, and we've actually been developing software for churches ever since 1984, so been around for quite some time. A little bit about Ledger. Now, Church360 Ledger is actually a part of the Church360 Suite, which is actually 3 separate products that all work hand in hand. In addition to Church360 Ledger, we also have Church360 Members. Church360 Members is our church management software tool where you enter in your member information, your prospect or visitor information. You're able to do things like create church directories with photos and communicate with individuals, whether it's via phone, email, or text. It does a lot. It does a lot. And rounding out our suite, we have Church360 Unite, which is our church website builder. So use this software to, of course, broadcast to the world how great your church is and what activities you have going on there. So it's a great product as well. Now with Church360 Ledger, which we're going to present on today, it is the finance piece of the suite. So what you'll find with this software is it is extremely intuitive and user-friendly, very easy to use. It's extremely secure as well. What we use for all products in the Church360 suite is what's called SSL encryption. That actually is the same protection that banks use for their websites. We know that you really don't have information that will be useful to an individual who's looking to do something ill, but we make this software extremely secure as if you were entering in that type of data. You'll also find that with this software, it's extremely focused on the key audience, which is the individuals who are working with the finances of the church. Now, in preparation for today's webinar, we've come up with a couple of assumptions. We are number one, assuming that you're somewhat familiar with church finances and that you are new to Church360 Ledger. We also are assuming that you're extremely busy, and we definitely appreciate your time for joining us today. But instead of sticking with the assumptions, I actually would like to get a gauge for who's joining us today. So I want to pull up a couple of questions and give you the opportunity to answer them. And the first one I'm going to come up with is, please select the option that most closely describes your primary role at church. So let me launch that. We have some admins. Welcome. Financial managers. Excellent, excellent. Couple more seconds here. All right, excellent. Let me close that and pull up the next question. Now, the next question is, are you currently using Church360 Ledger at your congregation? All right, so we have a good mix of individuals using the software and who are looking to possibly purchase the software. That's a good mix. All right, so the last question we'll come up with is, what would you consider your Church360 Ledger skill level to be? So this is just for the individuals who are actually using the software right now. A couple more seconds here. Okay, we have some couple novices, some newbies, and intermediate users. Excellent. This presentation is going to be perfect for all of you. So thank you for that. All right, so let's get into the outline for Church360 Ledger. We're going to cover the goals of Ledger and take a tour of the software, once again led by Ken Olemeyer. And then we'll wrap it up with your questions and answers. So with the goals of Church360 Ledger, what are they? Well, it's church finances. At the church, we recognize that mainly they're managed by volunteers. And so with that, most of those volunteers are not accountants. They're just helping out with the church. And so they lack that professional training. And so that's what we built this software for, to accompany those individuals who are not accountants, but still looking to help out the church. So accountability is extremely important in the church, especially dealing with finances. And so we built software that helps to prevent the ill intention from doing wrong, but also it helps prevent the well-intentioned individuals from making mistakes. We're all human. We do make mistakes from time to time, especially when dealing with numbers. So we want to come up with great software that's going to help you avoid those mistakes. So with that, Church360 Ledger was designed to increase accountability. It also was designed to prevent the mistakes that may happen within the church. So with this introduction to the software, we will cover the chart of accounts, and we'll touch on budgeting. We'll also get into transactions with the credits and debits. The software is designed just for churches, and we know that churches use double entry fund-based accounting with the credits and debits. So Ken will touch on that a little bit. We'll also touch on reconciliation of your accounts and wrap with reports. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to switch over to Ken and let him jump in and show the software.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Thank you for having me today. And I want to thank all of you. We appreciate you taking the time out to watch this with us. We know that sometimes just carving out that hour in a day can be a little tough. If you're watching it live, thank you very much. If you're watching this recorded, thank you as well, too. As Stephen mentioned, my name is Ken Olemeyer. I'm one of the senior marketing managers here at Concordia Publishing House. And while Stephen and the Concordia Technology Solution team have been working with this software for years, this is one that I'm still relatively new at. See, I'm a marketing guy, not an accountant. And I love the fact that we were kind of split between administrative people and some financial people. You might say, why is a marketing guy showing me this? Well, of all the different tools within the Church360 Suite, I do use the Church360 members, and I do use Church360 Unite to build websites, but this is one that I don't get my hands on too much. But I want to share it with you just to show you how simple it is, how intuitive it is, and as Stephen mentioned, how it can help those who might occasionally make a mistake, alert them, make sure that they're putting in the right information, and making sure that we're keeping track of your church's financial state in a good manner. Also, I'm hoping as we go through this today that I'm sparking an idea or two. So if that happens, please add your question to the chat box down there for Stephen. He'll answer them as he can. We'll try to leave some time at the end to be able to do some Q&A as well. But we're always here for you. So I may just gloss over something very quickly. And if you want to go in depth with it, let us know, and we'll be happy to do a demo or do a one-on-one call and help make sure you get the information. Now, let me ask you a question before we get started, about the year end. We're still a number of weeks away, but how many of you really look forward to doing year end closing in the books? Now, come on. Now, first of all, think about it. Who's not ready to get rid of 2020 and get into 2021? Let's move. Let's get this year behind us and move on. But is this a stressful time for you? Do you ever feel like you're behind? Have you kept up monthly and doing the month end close and have all the information you need? Or do you just breeze through it like there's nothing holding you back? For many people, though, the fact of closing the books at the year end can be a very stressful time and very time consuming. Now, for those of you who might do this full time for the church, it's stressful because you have other things that you're doing as well. For those of you who are doing this part time for the church, it's stressful because not only are you trying to balance your day job, but you're also trying to balance your volunteering and you're helping with the church. And closing the books at the year end is certainly not glamorous, but it is certainly something that's necessary. And what can we do with Church360 Ledger to make it easier for you? See, one of the things Stephen mentioned as a marketing guy here, one of my jobs is to be out talking with church leaders. And I get out much more before the pandemic hit, but I get out and I talk with pastors, I talk with administrators, I talk with office staff, I talk with lay leaders, people of various titles, various responsibilities, but people just like you. And one of the things I constantly hear over and over from them is this desire to keep the church financially sustainable and the ability to make sure that we're all good stewards of the monies and the offerings that come into us. And how can we do that more easily? I think we've got a great resource here. And so today's webinar is looking at Church360 Ledger, looking at the software from a 30,000-foot view, doing a very broad overview of things, but really trying to concentrate on some of the things you might need for the year end as you're closing those books. We're going to take a look at a little bit of everything, though. I want to show you how the software is arranged, how you can see a quick glance of your finances, or how you can do a deep dive and just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. I'm going to show you how simple it is, but more importantly, I'm going to show you just how automatic it is, especially as you're doing your year-end close. And because it's so automatic, because there's so many things that happen in the back end of this, that frees you up for other ministry. And there's so many powerful behind the scenes things and so many things that are really relatively foolproof. And this can be very helpful to you. So I know we've got a lot to cover. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to switch over to my screen here as I look at my other screen and then get to this screen. Now I want to make sure that I'm sharing and you're seeing everything that you need to see there. If you have any issues, please let us know so that we can make adjustments, but I'm seeing the opening screen right here. And when you log into Church360 Ledger, this is the opening screen you'll see. This will be your home screen. Now, it seems like a lot of information, especially for marketing guys who may not be number oriented. This is just a lot of information, but it is really an effective dashboard and an effective snapshot. So when we think about closing our books at the year end, there are many, many things to consider. But there are a number of different things, like first of all, just updating your just general financial information, making sure that you have the right information about your banks, your lenders, people who are bringing money in, the people you owe money to, all of that type of thing, making sure you've updated it. and then entering all your transactions. We'll talk about transactions and such, but really there are basically three things that always just kind of come to mind when it comes to closing your books at the year end. One of it is just being accurate. The accuracy, being confident that you've put in the right numbers and that you have the right figures in there. The other one is just what I always consider kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's. And that's just being sure that you have an attention to the detail that needed. That if you're off a few pennies here and there, that you're able to go back in and make those adjustments and be sure that you're accounting for every single piece that's in there. The other one would just be that knowledge of accounting principles. Have you considered everything when it comes to closing the books at the end of the year? Now, of course, surely those of you that have the financial background, there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 other things that I haven't mentioned or thought about. You would have a better feel for that. But this is where Church360 Ledger can really help you. And for the sake of today's demonstration, I'm not going to go too deep into some of the other year-end areas like donations, how to report donations and things like that. In fact, we did that earlier today in a webinar that we did for Church360 members. We showed how to do a year-end within your members and send them the donations because the monies that go into here then go directly are directly correlated to your members as well. So that's a nice tie-in as you do that. But I'm not going to think about things like pastoral expenses for housing or salaries or things like that, or maybe the tax forms that you need. Again, this doesn't get into some of those type of things. So we're just kind of gloss over those. But one of the really important things to consider as you're closing out for the year end is just making sure that you've gathered all the right information. Now keep in mind, your church may be different from other people's churches, and I'm just going to give a general overview here, but that's what's nice about the whole Church360 Suite and Ledger and Members and Unite. There's a lot of customization that's available here to you, so that as you're working with this software, you're able to customize things and see things that are distinct to your congregation. But maybe these things include the revenue totals that you need, or maybe bank account information, or the petty cash fund amount, financial statements, balance sheets. We'll get into those. Fixed assets that you have, making sure that at the end of the year you know where your fixed assets are. Income and expense account information, and then just the general ledger. So whatever you need to close your books smoothly, and especially at this year end, Church360 Ledger has it ready for you. So let's get started. And I want to just kind of go through some of the navigation for you, just get a lay of the land and take a look at what's here. So as you open this up and we start looking at the page and I start moving around with my arrow here, you notice this $sign in the top left corner. This is your home button. This will take you back to whatever this screen, wherever you are, just hit that home button, you go right back. It's very easy to find. The next thing you see, and as I moved over, it highlighted it, but you also see a drop down. These are your books. And you can have various books for this. They're basically used to organize your transactions so that you can have completely different accounts and keep track of everything. Now, most churches will just require one book in your Church360 Ledger, but you can make different books for different accounts, or perhaps your school. You see on here, I have Christ Community School. I've also added some of the other ministries that we have, our mission and outreach, our men's ministry. I have one here just called miscellaneous expenses, but you could put a book in here for VBS, for Sunday school, wherever you have expenses and wherever you have a budget that you need to keep track of, you can do it that way. And we'll get more into books a little bit later. As we move over to the right, you see the print button. Now this, when you click onto it, shows you many different things in your print queue. And I will say right now, another caveat, I use this site as demonstrations on occasion, so you may see some numbers and dates that are old or whatever. Just ignore that, but you see what you have here and how it can share what's in your print queue. Now, from here, you can click on it and print individual items, or you can print here, click here and print everything at one time. This becomes really handy as you're printing your checks off or you need to print other things here. So I'm just going to click off of here. The next item in our navigation is our books here, pardon me, our pending transactions. And when you do a pending transaction, it's very straightforward. This is imported from somewhere else. It might be the checks or deposits, etc., that we have. Or, as I said, this ties into some of our Church360 members materials or other services that we integrate with. And Stephen and the CTS team would be able to help you a lot to be able to tell you what else is integrated with Church360 Ledger, so they can help answer those questions. But this gives you a list of recent payments and deposits made. And you're also able to drill down straight from here. So for instance, I have a monthly reoccurring charge for my internet payment. I just click into that and it's going to then take me to that information as well. And this is very handy to have this just right at your fingertips. This is one of the advantages of doing this online like this, is having all of this information right at your fingertips. As I said, it helps free you up to be able to do other things. The next icon here is our book of reports. And this lets you see all the possible reports that we currently have or that we'll go to, and we'll share each of these more in detail. But I want to highlight it just so you know where it is. So, and I click down on it, we have our general ledger, we have our income and expenses, we have our chart of accounts, and we have our balance sheets. These are the four main reports that you'll have on here. But you also see the event log. And the event log is great. This basically tracks just about all the steps, all the changes, all the events that have gone on in the software. And it's great for auditing purposes. I can click in there and I just see everything that has happened, whether I've created a new transaction or I've changed a company name and a payee. I see who has done it, my users, etc. This is great at year end to have all that right there. I'm gonna click back into here and we get out of my event log, just go back home. You saw I just went back to my $ and did that, or I could have just hit the back arrow, but I did the $. The next thing you see here is the cog or the wheel. You click down on that, you see a number of different things listed. You see two different lines there, but the first section are your chart of accounts, your budgets, your fiscal years, your reoccurring transactions, your imported transactions. And then you see some additional more admin type things, if you will, your general right here, your users and users and roles. We'll go into that just in a minute, and books and payees. What I love about the users is you can add new users to this account. You can have other people in here, but roles is a great tool as well. As we think about year end, you may want to give access to certain people that might have a different skill set or might have a speciality that you don't have or that you need in order to clear your books and finish your books. This would be a place where you could add them in and give them the access to certain areas that they need. So for instance, in here you see my administrator, you see my financial secretary. I've added a VBS leader one time. If I wanted to have someone who was responsible for the budgets and the closing of the books for VBS, I could pull them in that role. But it's great to ensure that you've got the right people looking at the right things. The books, I mentioned the books earlier. I'll share that in just another second. And then payees, this is where you can go in and either do a company or an individual, set them up. Be sure that at the end of the year, you've paid everybody that you need to pay, or as we start looking into 2021 and we have new bills or new payees that we need to do, we can add them very quickly and very easily here. I mentioned books. Let me just click back in here, show you how easy that is. These are the books that I have listed. If I go back up to this spot and click down on it, those are my different books. If I wanted to add a new one, it's as simple as just clicking on add new. It's giving it a name. Maybe this time it's, I don't know, women's ministry. So I click in women's ministry, give it a name. I can give it the starting month, my fiscal year, and I can give it a starting date, hit submit. That becomes a new book for you as well. So I won't go too deep into any of that. And then the final icon that you see here is just your user settings. And this is where you can set your, all the things that you need, your passwords, new passwords, and your logout. A few more things here. Let me go back to my $, get back home. You notice this Omni search bar right here. This is a search bar that you can use to either go, to different sections, maybe look up different payees. Let me move a couple things here and do this. So let's say I want to go in here and just type in my assets. I click on there. It'll take me straight to all my assets. I'm going to click back home here. I can also do it, to my expense page. That might just be the money I'm spending on salaries and things like that I want to take a look at. I can do liabilities. I can type in my liabilities page, and that'll take me right to where my sources of debt are, and my short-term, long-term expenses, things like that. Or I can just look up specific categories. We talked about internet before. I can look at my internet expense and operational, so I can see where that is as well. Very helpful as you're just making sure that all your information is there for your year end, making sure that quickly you can grab that information and find it. So the next thing you see here are new transactions. And if I click down on that, it's your transfers, it's your deposits, it's your payments, it's your checks, and it's your journal entry. And we'll go into there a little bit later as well. Now, I mentioned the dashboard. The entire program provides a glimpse for you, and then you can dig down deeper at every level. So even if anytime I click into something, it will then dig down deeper and drill down for me. Go back to my payees. I can go back home. I can move through, and I like to see visuals. I'm a visual person, so I need to see a visual. So I can look in there and see where my running balance is. I can see where I am at every point of the year. And this is helpful too, as you're working through the year. You can get a sense of, oh, we might be a little bit short this month, or we've got a good overview this month. So let's just see what else we can do, different things here and there. And as I scroll down, it just takes you all the way down to what I have in my ledger there. One last thing to point out, and I use this all the time. You notice the circle I down here at the bottom of the right corner. This is your lifeline. This is what you need to really make sure that if you run up against something, or if you have a question, or you just can't figure something out, or you're just like, what do I do now? Click on that I, and you see a box pop up. That's our information box. And you can either search for help articles, for instance, so let's just say year end. Well, actually, I'd already started typing that in there. So year end, and then I'm going to hit enter. So what comes up from there? Some of our documents, some of our other informational sources from our Concordia Technology Solution support pages and things like that. So for instance, Church360 Ledger year-end document. I want to click on that. Well, there it is for me right there. It's everything I need to help me do the year end. I can even click on here, see original document, and I do that. It opens up a new tab, and there's my original document right there. And we have a lot of information available on our help center. So one of the things I always tell people, there's nothing more frustrating than starting to work with a new software program and not feeling that you're supported. Not feeling that, it was one of these things that somebody just gives you or assigns to you and say, here, learn this. Much of this is very intuitive. If you have any financial background at all, you'll be able to pick it up pretty easily. But there are those times where you really need help. That's what we're here for. That's why we have people on staff. Within that circle I, you can go in here and send a message. So again, if you're not seeing what you need as far as something to answer your question, send us a note. Put a subject line in there. Type in as much information as you can provide. And I always say that. I said, try to do as much information. Try to be as detailed as possible. And I only say that so that our people can then answer you as quickly as possible and the right answer the first time. We don't mind going back and forth. We'll sit here and try to help and walk through it with you until we get the answer you need. But if you can provide more information right off the bat, then we can be sure to get you the information. Again, as we're talking tonight too, if you have a question, type it in our chat. Stephen can help you with that. The other thing you can do is call us at an 800 number, 1-800-346-6120. We are here to help for you. I always joke with people, Concordia Technology Solutions. If you think about it, we have solutions in our name. So we want to be sure that you're getting the solution you need. All right, enough about the information and coming back on that. Like I said, I use this all the time in any of the programs, but most of the time here in Ledger as I'm trying to figure something out. So what are some of the other items on your year-end closing checklist? We talked about making sure that you're recording all of your incoming cash, whether that's revenue coming in through offerings or tithes or other year-end donations or loan payments you might have, whatever or wherever your income comes from each month, and then subsequently the entire year. It could be transfers between accounts, it could be deposits, or it could be payments. So let's start with the drop-down list here, this new transactions, and just show how easy it is to record this information for you. So I'm going to go right up here to new transactions. And again, you see transfers, you see deposits, you see payments, you see checks, you see journal entries. So let's just start with a transfer and do a quick transfer where we're moving money between accounts for us. I click into it, a new screen opens. And these can only occur, these transfers can only occur from an asset to an asset, or liability to a liability, or income to income, or expense to expense accounts. So let's do an income to income. And I say that too because if I were to do something incorrect, it will stop me. It will not allow me to make an error in this type of thing. But it will, if I'm doing the income to income, I'll be able to do it. So let's do this. Let's say income offering. So let's go VBS fund. Well, let's go general fund. And let's just say, well, first of all, let me just, I'm jumping into it real quick. Let me just give a quick overview. You see different things here. You see an optional memo line. So you can enter a memo, you can give yourself a note so that, when you're going back at the end of the year, when you're doing this in February and you're looking at this again in next January, you can remind yourself what that was for. You also have a date, and this date can be moved. So you're not static on here. So let's just say this was done earlier this month, and I'm just now getting around to putting that money in. So I'm doing that, and then I go for my income to income. So let's just say this was 200. I can tab down, go to another line, or I'm just going to go right over to here, and this then went into preschool. And now you see my, as Stephen said, my double entry fund base. So I see that I've got this here. Now I've got a couple different options. I can make it reoccurring if this is something that's just going to happen all the time, or I can just save it and it's in there right off the bat. So you see my transaction was created. You see that it is put in here in my ledger. I'll just show a quick example though, if I did not do something correct for you. So let's just say I wanted to do this from savings account to, well, now see, it automatically goes to an asset. So it's pulling what it is, and I'm going to go to VBS, let's say, and this time I did 200 again, just to make it simple. But over here, I did 100, and I try to hit save. See, the transaction could not be created because the lines did not equal each other. So I know to go in here now and make a change. I hit save. Well, first I'm going to cross that out. I hit save, and there my transaction was created. So it's very easy, and you can make these, as I said, reoccurring, or if you make a mistake, you can go back in and edit it. And anytime you edit it, it will automatically create a journal entry and into your general ledger. So much easier, to be sure that you're keeping track of everything than having to, try to remember it yourself every time, because you're busy. You've got other things going on. You have other responsibilities, I'm sure. And this is probably not your full-time job. And if it is, you can do it much quicker and continue to move on. Now, the other one is deposits. Let's take a look at deposits. I love deposits. This is where we're adding money into our accounts, into our assets accounts, such as checking or maybe our savings account. Now, assets and income accounts are the only ones that have deposits recorded. And this is very similar to what we just did with the transfer steps. So, there's the memo line, the optional memo line here. It might just be weekly offering. Our date, I can tab over, and maybe on the 5th, we took that weekend's offering. And I'm looking now for one of my payees. Well, maybe I'll change this weekly. Well, let me just go payee and we'll do it this way. So Concordia Health Plans, and my asset would be my savings account, let's say, and I'm going to do 150, tab over to my income. And I'm sorry, when I'm tabbing, it's automatically dropping me down one, so I'm just moving over. So you'll see every now and then I'll do that, and it's just myself making a quick move. My income is, again, just rental income, let's say. I hit save. Green box comes up, my transaction was created. Now, I can also go back in and edit this. So I just click into it. And well, that's going to take me into a different thing we're going to talk about later. But I can go back in and edit those as well and make sure that I've got the right information. So there, I just clicked into it. Maybe I need to amend the memo, or I need to copy and do another one that's similar, or I just need to go in and change one of my assets or something like that. I can make those changes. Those will be kept in my event log, so that I'll know that when I go back next time. I can also go in and void and copy it, as I said. Next one is new transactions and payments. Now, in Church360 Ledger, payments can be used either as electronic transactions, online electronic payments, and they can be used with payments. So only assets and liability and expense accounts are going to be used on this. And this is very similar. You notice these are all very similar. So once you kind of learn the one, you'll be able to move through and do the others. But this is very similar to the other ledger transactions, where I have my memo right here, I have my date, I have my payee. Again, I'm looking at either assets or liabilities, and expense or liabilities. So I can go in here and I'm just going to pull in my unrestricted checking account. I'm going to go $300, and the expense or liability is my church credit card. Well, pastor salary and benefits, let's say, and hit save. And then that transaction is taken care of. Another transaction, and something that you're probably doing throughout the year, and come the end of the year, it seems like you're probably going to be writing more and more of them, is checks. So let's take a look at checks and show you how simple it is to write your checks and move into there. And this can be done for either writing paper checks or recording some of those handwritten checks you have. So if you have a church checkbook that you're doing and you need to reconcile these later, you can go back in and put this information in the Church360 Ledger to be sure that at the end of the year, you've captured everything. So for instance, let's just do an example. So I go in here with my check, put my memo. It was just, I just bought warehouse sale items. And those were, I don't know, study guides, hymnals, etc. And the warehouse sale was just last weekend, so it was Friday the 16th. My payee was here to, my payee was Concordia Publishing House. I was at the warehouse sale, And let's see, my check number, I can manually put in my check number. It was 12570. Now, if I look at my asset and liability again, it's just out of my checking account, unrestricted. And let's say I bought a bunch, 425. And I scroll over here. And I did this as, this is, let's call it a Sunday school ministry expense. If I had other things to put in there, I could do that as well. I hit save. It has now been added. My check has been added to my print queue. So I go back into my print queue and there it is right there. Whoop, warehouse sale. Okay, I've got my dates. So it's down here. So if I click into that, let me just show you how easy it is to print then. I just hit print right here. It's going to open up. So if I have the types of checks that I can use from a printer, and Stephen and the CTS folks can tell you what checks to recommend and things like that, the paper checks, you can run this through your printer and everything is included in there, including your address, the payee's address. If you're putting it in a windowed envelope, you see it right there and everything's written down for you. So I'm going to click off of that. You can also then go back into and edit and void those checks or copy those checks, just very similar to the other thing. The last item here is a journal entry. And here's where you can make those corrective entries that you might need to make at times. Let's say, if you're balancing your items and you notice a payment or a transaction is off by just a few dollars, you can go in and do a journal entry to change the account information. Or maybe you've got bank fees or other interest payments. Go in and do a journal entry and correct that. Journal entries can be used for all types of accounts. And it's very simple as well. You go in, you put your memo in here, which is optional. You enter your date. You have your payee, which is also optional. And then you select your account, your first account. So that, and I'm going to say that was credited $2 into your next account. Let's say was a CD. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to show you a couple different things. I hit that. And that was correctly done. So you see that I had my journal entries correct. Okay. Also with this, you can go in and do voids, you can do copies, different types of things as you wrap up your year that you may need to do multiple types of things. You can do that here in the journal entry. Let's do a quick look right now just at the general dashboard as well. The dashboard gives a quick overview of everything. I pointed this out earlier. I love being able to just move through the dashboard, get a date, get a sense of my running balance, and see where I am. Or you can do a deep dive on things. And this is great. It's at your fingertips wherever you have an internet connection. That's what I love about this being web-based, is that you can use it on your tablet, you can use it here on a laptop or a PC. You're not tied to that one computer at the office that has everything. And this has been very, very helpful during this whole pandemic and the work from home and shelter in place and all that. The work of the church could still go on even if you were not physically at the church building, because you had access to the books, you had access to different things. Through members, you could find out what's going on with your members. Through Unite, you could help update things on your website. Through Ledger, you were able to keep your books clean. So now at the end of the year and the end of the year coming up, you're able to do your reporting very quickly. So when you click and drop down on home, you see a few more things come out here. So it gives me a different views of my assets, my liabilities, my income, my expenses. And I love this too. I didn't really talk too much about this, but you're also able to export to Excel. So this is great. And let's just see, I'm going to click onto it. Just opened up down there, just saved. And this is great. It's going to be on this page. So I'm moving it over as it opens up. I know what's great about being able to download this to Excel is then you can really work through the data and do different things as far as sharing this information and reporting it. It actually just opened it up over there. But if I just a quick Excel chart right here, sorry, just keep moving over to my other screen. Let me just grab it again. Yep, there it is. But you see then as an Excel chart, you can save it, you can make charts, you can make graphs, you can do different reports, you can add it into your year-end voters meeting, let's say, if you need to write the report, or you can add information into your weekly church newsletter, or maybe you have a state of the church end of year report or whatever. You can do that. So that is very helpful. Next thing, you can also print this off as well, and that might be helpful as well too, as you print things, just either printing them to your regular printers or saving them as a PDF. That might be something that you can include as well. So let's get out of there. It's going to open up my print window right here. So I'm going to cancel that out before it starts. Okay. The last thing too to notice here on our dashboard is you have a date range. So you can change the dates of many of these different reports and many of the different views to make sure you're just seeing exactly what you need. You can do quarterly, you can do months through here. You can do an entire year's worth of material that you've input in. Again, with me, some of my numbers might be off or my dates might be off just because this is just a demo site that I go into on occasion. But that is nice being able to do different things like that. And then back at the top, when I think about not my pending transaction, but my general ledger, this lists all of the transactions that you've been making, and it's across all of your accounts. So now if I change my books, it'll change my view. So for instance, and I'm not sure, I'm going to click on one of my other books here. If I can get to one of my other books. Well, I'm not going to push that too hard. My laptop might be lagging a bit, but if I were able to click into one of my other books, it would just show a different view of the ledger. So for instance, let's just go to missions and outreach, see what's there. It's showing me my books right here, my assets, my ledger right there. I don't have enough information in there to warrant a graph. Let's just see if church, and it tells me that my view has changed. There are a lot of little clues within Church360 Ledger as you work with it that will keep pointing you in the right direction. So if you find yourself messing up on something, it'll tell you. It'll tell you very quickly, and then you're able to make that adjustment or make that correction. But here's just my church miscellaneous, and you see different things here and there. I'm going to go back to, I think I went back. Let me go back to out of the school to back to my church view and my ledger. What I like about this too, there are a lot of different ways to customize this report for you as well. You see the dates, and I mentioned the specific time frames. You see the type. I can do just certain types of entries. My payees, I can click into one of my payees and see all the different information on them. Sorry, let me go back to here. See that payee, so you see payments. I can do groups by payees, different things. General ledger. Sorry. So I can do my payees. So I can click in here, click all, or if there's just one particular payee I want to see, I can do that. So I can just look at that right off the bat. I may just click back in there, but it gives you the option to check different boxes just to see one or two people or whatever. I can go in and group it by my accounts. So maybe, again, at the end of the year here, maybe I just want to see the church credit card and see what has been going on with that. I can just look at the church credit card. I can see the memos that were typed in there to help guide me in now knowing what that was for. I'm just going to go click in here again, all. I can go in and change my types, whether it's just payments. Let's do payments. And that helps keep everything right there for me. So I'm going to click out of there. Also, you can export this to Excel, as we showed earlier, especially as I go down and I make my edits and I make my revisions. If I'm doing a year end, I can save that to Excel or I can print it. Let's go in here to income and expenses as I share that. Now, this is great too, because I'm just going to open that down. I can look at my income, which is my revenue, and that's offerings, interest, real estate income or rental income. I can look at my expenses, which might be things like my spending, my salaries, my different materials or utilities that I have to pay. And I can do it by account as well. So I have this drop down. It also shows me my budget versus my actual, and then the percent of budget, and then what I have remaining. Again, the numbers are going to be off just because of what I do, but your numbers, I'm hoping, are not as red as these sometimes. But I can look at offerings and I can drop it down. Every one of these comes with a drop down. Tuition, I can look at my preschool and elementary school, my rental income. I can go out and look at my expenses, whether there's salaries that I have with my pastor's salary and benefits and health plans and church office staff and all those different types of things. And I can look at this still from the fiscal year to the quarters to the month. I can dig deep into that type of thing. I can look year to date, as I mentioned, and I can see my remaining. Also, I can export that to Excel or print that as well. Let's go to another one. Let's look at my chart of accounts. So my chart of accounts gives me a good summary of the changes to my assets, liabilities, my income and expenses over given timeframes as well. And this report gives you a good picture of your church's overall financial standing, being good stewards of the gifts God gives us. And as we look at the end of the year, getting a good view right here of where you're standing and how you have been a good steward of those gifts. And I know that this has been a very strange year. I have heard early on, and this was very encouraging, that many churches are doing well. They're doing okay with their offerings and tithes and budgets and things like this. I pray that that is still the case, and I pray that's the case for you right now, that you're looking at the year end, and while it may be off, it's not anything that's too detrimental. So I pray for you on that regard. But these columns are also very customizable as well, and let you go in and take a look at what you have. I can just drop down different menus and different things here or there. I can export that as well. And then the balance sheet. Let's take a look at the balance sheet real quick. And I want to be sure I'm running up on time here, so I want to be sure I'm sharing stuff. Like I said, I may be going through some of this rather fast. If you've got questions, put your question into the chat box. I'm sure Stephen's been able to address a number of them right now. We'll see if we have any questions at the end. Usually if we have some questions, he's able to address those. If it's something for the general group, we may spend some time at the very end. If you get done with all of this and you still have a question, type it in there, or we'll give you a call and we'll talk through it with you. But the balance sheet gives you a nice summary of your assets and liabilities here, your starting balance, your ending balance, your debits, your credits, the change plus or minus the change via percent, and it's your assets and your liabilities. And things like your building loan, same types of things. I can export this to Excel, I can print this, I can do my specific date range that I'm looking for as well. And since we're talking about year end, I want to just take a quick look at how we reconcile accounts. So let me go back to my front right there. And you see my drop down menu. When I drop down the home menu and I get all this additional information right there, I want to click on assets. And I want to click on it, and then that will come down and it shows my bank accounts, my investment accounts. And I just want to keep clicking through this until I get to my bank account, until I get to my checking account. And then you see a green box and that says reconcile. So I click on the reconcile button right here, and you see all my new things that are in here as well. And in this pop-up window, you start by putting your ending and starting balance. It shows that I'm off by $275.42. Let's see if I can figure that out. Let's see. Nope, now I'm off by 635. Now I'm off by 124. I click into here, that's going to really throw me off. 75, off by 250. But you keep clicking through until you get to that zero balance and you reconcile. And then you go through the transaction, and then you'll be able to get to the point where you're off by zero, and that will reconcile. And what it will do also, you just hit save, and what it will do also, it will be under the event log, and it will show that you've reconciled for the month, or in this case, the year. And I love this because it shows you the different actions. You can then either actions that were created or maybe something that was printed. I can see when that check was printed. Click off of here. I can see my different users. I can see my different types of transactions, payees, etc. And then I can export or print that. So let me just go back to the front, and we're just running up on the last few minutes here. And I just want to ask you, how do you think you could use Ledger? You know, as you can see, Church360 Ledger is a pretty powerful and pretty intuitive tool as you go around and you work with your books and you work with your different statements and bank accounts and things like this. And just imagine what you could do with this and how much it could free you up. Now, there's something to think about with this, especially as we get near the end of the year. I always say that the end of the year is coming up very soon, and there are usually two types of people that will take the time to watch something like this. Those who will end up watching it and do nothing, and you still keep getting the same results that you've always had, and you keep doing it the same way you've always do it, or those who will take a look at this and say, you know, this could be something new for me. This could be something that will save me time. This could be something that I could put into practice and start seeing immediate results. And today would be a great opportunity for you to sign up and do a free 37-day trial and see if you're going to be able to save time and be more accurate using Church360 Ledger. 37 days, and we're getting near the end of the year. This would be a great time to try that out. Stephen will explain why 37 days. But as I wrap up, there's so much that you can do with Church360 Ledger, and this overview webinar truly just starts to scratch the surface. Just really scratches the surface. In fact, I probably go down a few avenues that I shouldn't, but I want to show you just about everything and show you how intuitive it is. Now, we offer more sessions like this, and we offer more webinars. So please keep looking for those announcements. Stay on our email list. I know we send a lot of emails out, but this is the best way for us to reach you and to keep you current on different types of things. If you ever have questions as you're working on this, let us know. See, many of the improvements, many of the original building of some of this came from our congregations. You are out there working with this every day. There might be something in here that we're missing, or there could be an easier way to do it. Let us know. Give us your feedback. We're here for you. We want to make this a success for you. We want to make it something useful and good for your church. So please let us know. We do take the comments and the feedback to heart, and we do like to know because that just makes it easier. So we're coming right up on time. I'm going to switch it over to Stephen, see if we have any questions. Stephen, I'm going to change presenter, give it right back to you.
All right.
And if we have any questions or anything, or if I can be of any further help, or Stephen can be of any further help, we are here for you. I'm going to stay on while Stephen is giving you your 37-day trial.
All right, so you should see my screen again saying, please start your 37 free day trial at 360ledger.com. So why 37 days, you ask? Well, we want to be extremely fair. We want to give you an entire month to enter in your data, and then 7 days, that final week, to review that information and make sure it's a good fit for you. And please do not hesitate to give us a call. We have a great support team. Ken mentioned several times we're here to walk with you hand in hand. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us either by calling directly in or right through the software, as Ken had actually shown. So with that, I do want to bring up our contact information again. So if you do not currently have the software and looking to purchase great software that's financial for churches only, please reach out to me. Here's my contact information or the direct um, email address to our software sales team here. Now, we do have just one question, so you did a great job as always, Ken. And so that question actually pertains to the logins. It's unlimited logins with this. So you can give access to as many individuals as you like who are working with your finances at church. But also with that, you are able to filter what people are able to work with and see in the software. The software will allow you to create books, as many as you like, for separate entities within your organization there. So if you happen to have a daycare, for example, and you want to keep the finances of your daycare separate from the church's finances, by all means, create that daycare book, and you're able to give individuals access to that book and keep their eyes away from the finances of the church. So it's really great software, which allows you to do a lot here. So we are out of time. And on behalf of Ken Olemeyer, I am Stephen Jenkins. I want to thank all of you for tuning in today and have a wonderful and blessed day.